Hello, good morning. It's a pleasure for us to introduce you to Dragana Kojičić, who is in Valencia during some weeks, just working and making a workshop with the students. So we invited her to give a lecture. Dragana is an architect from Serbia, and she is the head of an association that promotes and try to enliven earthen architecture there. And well, she is trying to do the same here in the workshop with the students. It's so much, I mean, it's so successful that many more students could inscribe in the workshop, but there was only place for some of them. So today, Dragana is going to explain us about the earthen architecture in Serbia, earthen architecture houses in Serbia. And it's the stage is yours. Thank you. She's going to speak in English just because it is quicker for her. So the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm very pleased to be here. I actually know the work of Fernando Vegas and Camila Mileto for many years, and I finally got to meet them 2 years ago in France, in Grenoble, and I loved their work, so that's why I'm basically here, because I wanted to see how it works. And I'm also very grateful to Lydia and to Santiago, who were very helpful to me these days, and who were there for everything. And also the students who helped me a lot with my broken Spanish, but I think we managed to do it. So it's a very big pleasure to me. And I'm here because there was a chance to come with a UNESCO residency for Western Balkans, and I used it because I thought it's a very good chance to exchange and to get to know more about how the things are going here. So I was born in the country that was called Yugoslavia, but it doesn't exist anymore. So although I still feel like Yugoslav, because we are so, like, my roots are from almost all of these countries. But I come from Serbia. Serbia is a small country in the Balkans. We unfortunately do not have sea. Climate is continental, so we used to have very cold winters, or nice summers. Now we have really hot summers and almost no winter, so it's a bit rough. Most of the people know us because of the wars and all the bad things that are happening all the time around Serbia, but we still have some very notable people, such as Nikola Tesla or Mihailo Pupin, or some, probably you know Djokovic because of tennis. So yeah, there are some light stories about my country. For us, for today's story, are important actually two rivers, Sava and Danube, because they divide our country in two parts, in south and north. South part has more mountains, and there is a lot of stone, wood, and some earth. So also architecture combines those materials. And we have north, where I live. It used to be a Pannonian Sea. Now it's Pannonian Basin, and it's basically very flat. We have few little, not mountains, but hills, and that's all basically. So it's different, and we have only earth, so no stone, no wood, or very little. So that's why people used to use earth in almost all the parts of the house. Apart from these geographical impacts, it's very important, the social impact, because the southern part was influenced by Ottoman Empire. So this part was for 500 years under Turks, under their influence. So the techniques are different, people are different, and so on. So there is a big difference. And for me, what is very important, and we talked with students in the last 2 days, are the names of the techniques. Because, for example, for Adobe, we have two names, and they are both from Old Turkish language, which means that these techniques were brought to Serbia. They were not from there. And in the northern part, we had Austro-Hungarian Empire, and it was completely different. We had a big swamp after this Pannonian Sea dried out. And with Maria Theresia, the queen, she decided to make it, to first make canals and to make it like very straightforward, like all Austrians are. So the architecture and the urbanism follows that. So it's completely different, and you will see the difference. So it's also, and there we have techniques, or we have for ram dirt and for wattle and daub, we have Serbian names, and also for wattle and daub we have several names, which means that these, or at least I think so, that these techniques are quite ancient, because people used to use them and know how to use them for many centuries. So if we just have a look to the map, so you will see that in this lower part where southern Serbia is, we have wooden houses, we have a combination of stone foundation and wood, or wooden structure, and then we have different infills, either wattle and daub, either adobe, and the northern part where these earthen houses are. So I'm going to talk more about the northern part. And what is very important is that during Austro-Hungarian Empire, many people came, and still today we have 26 ethnic groups and 6 official languages, which means a lot of differences. Yeah, we also have some Spanish people who came, and there are still some villages, one village called in Serbian Perles, but from Count Perlas from Spain, and also the town where we live currently, supposed to have a quarter called New Barcelona, because there were some Spanish people, but because the conditions of life were not so easy, they moved either to Timișoara, to Romania, or to Hungary, but some of the families still stayed there, and there are also some family names that actually came from Spanish. So first, shelters were really simple, wattle and daub probably, also some shepherd houses, the last one on the top. Then we had quite some troglodyte houses, like vertical, that we called zemunica, zemlja is earth, and lagumica, and they were like horizontally curved. And we have them next to Danube River and to those rivers and in these little hills. And we have also something that is very curious. It's like flat earth house, or with a flat roof, and we have quite hard winters. So it's very weird to find this kind of architecture in the region. They're called putrika. And then we have this typical Pannonian house that can be found not only in Serbia, but also in Romania, Hungary, Croatia, and other countries. And they're quite similar. If you go, they have maybe some differences, and usually differences in the color. So Serbian colors of the house are, for example, yellow and brown. Slovak houses are blue. Hungarian houses are often green, and so on. So it's very, just by color, you can see who the house belonged to. So it's something like, it would be one of the typical houses. So a lot of earth, used almost everywhere, reed, because we had a lot of swampy areas, so a lot of reed. And then very tiny openings, because wood was very special and we couldn't get it so easily. Techniques, so we have wattle and daub, ram dirt. Either they put reed between to reinforce it, kind of, or they put tiles in one part of the region. We also have some turf, sod, these upside down bricks, and it's quite rare, but there is a church next to our town that is made of this technique. And again, as I mentioned, adobe, but it's more for cities, towns, because it was easier to transport it and to build it there. So just to explain a little bit how I entered to this world of earth architecture. So I wanted to be an artist, actually. That was my dream when I was a child. But then somehow I ended up studying architecture, and until third year I was not sure was I in the right place. But then they taught us ecology, vernacular architecture, and so on. So I really loved it. And then I discovered that we can do some internships. So I did it in Syria and Colombia. And I realized that is something that I would like to do in my future. So for my final project for the School of Architecture, I did improvement of traditional houses, and my focus was on rammed earth. But because none of the teachers knew anything about earth, that was easily, I mean, it was good, it was fine. And then, like a few weeks after my graduation, I ended up at my first job in Africa, in Rwanda, and I stayed there for 3 years. And actually, I discovered this specialization, Crater from France. I discovered it there because there was a poster, little one. And then that's how actually getting to know earthen architecture of Rwanda, I got into this whole story because it was necessary to apply for the school. And then I was accepted, and I spent beautiful 2 years with them, learning a lot. And then I came back to Serbia with an idea to start working on and helping with these houses. But it was quite difficult because I learned all these techniques, for example, in French. So it took me, for some, I knew the translation, but for some other, for example, cob, it took me some years to find the word because we don't use it as a technique of building walls, but only for some stoves. And it took me years to find out the real Serbian name for it. So it was like a bit upside down, but yeah, an interesting journey. So I'm going to explain a bit about the problems we have in conservation and restoration of these houses, but they're not, I mean, there are some general problems. They're not related only to Serbia, but to earthen architecture in general, and then there are some specific problems. Most of the houses, as we talked last days, have a really negative perception by the people. It's always something that belongs to poor people, that it's dirty and so on. People don't like it. They are afraid of rain and all the water and so on. So it's seen by most of the people as something that is not good. But I can see that in, let's say, last 10 years, things are slowly changing, especially after Corona time, when a lot of young people came back to Serbia. They realized they can live and work in these villages and have nice and comfortable lives. And of course, neglect, because they didn't care about those houses. For them, it was something that belonged to the past, rural, and so on, so they were not used. There was a lack of terminology. We know these techniques, but we never called them. Nobody ever made documentation on them, and we never called them earthen architecture or houses made of earth. It was just like rammed earth. And also it's curious because in southern Serbia, we don't have rammed earth, but because they didn't have a name for the technique, they called it like that. So it's kind of very strange. And if they would do documentation and they would work a bit on research on those houses, it was done by ethnologists, not by architects. So it was very little. And then lack of legislation, of course. In 1952, there was a law that forbid to build earthen houses in central urban areas, but nobody knows if it's still like on or it is an old law, so it's kind of blurry. Then there is lack of continuity because after the Second World War, because as almost of the countries of Europe were destroyed, they started to build fast, and that's why concrete was so interesting and important. And they stopped using earth, or actually from 50 to 70, and then in the 70s there was no more new earthen construction in this region. So it means 55-6 years that passed, and that all the old masons who used to work are gone. Of course, for me, I see some mistakes that are repeating all the time, such as we talked yesterday. There is no ring beam on the rammed earth walls, which means that we have a lot of cracks because of the wooden construction of the roof. and so on. So they didn't have time, or I don't know, they never repaired or thought of these mistakes. So they're repeating all the time. Limited access to information, of course, because they wanted to repair their houses, but nobody told them how to do it. They couldn't find information. And of course, so I think you are very lucky to have all this information available, because still at the universities there is no earth. We had an ecology professor who talked a bit about it, but still no research on it and proper education on it. Then, of course, skilled craftspeople are missing, but a colleague of mine, Lina from Romania, she did a PhD and a research in Banat of Romania, and what she discovered is that at that time there were not many more craftsmen, but the community was much more involved, especially women, and most of the houses in our region are still alive because of this maintenance, because it was always the job of the women, and they used to repair it every year, and they still do it. Then shortage of traditional materials. For example, it's very hard to find husk for these plasters. It's not possible to find it anymore. Also, earth people don't know where to find it. You cannot buy it, but they don't know how to use it, or if they are allowed to use it from anywhere. Then there are a lot of environmental changes, and it's not only about how climate change and so on, but it's also like, those disasters that are happening, floods, earthquakes, and so on. But there is, I think, much more on us, on humans, because we change so many things in the environment. For example, in front of each house, we had a tree. It was a mulberry tree, and they said it was very good because it would take all the humidity out of this piece of earth. I don't know if it's true, but it's a legend. And at that time, Serbia was, Yugoslavia, because back then it was Yugoslavia, they were like third producer of silk in Europe and fifth in the world. So they had like 2.5 million of mulberry trees. Almost every house had this tree in front of their house. And also in front of every house we had canals. And also because there were very long plots, we have long canals that would take off all the water. And suddenly people cut all the trees, filled all the canals, and then we have a lot of problems with earthen houses. And it's actually not, it's not, as Santiago explained yesterday, we always need to look for a cause of the problem, and it's not in the houses, it's in their environment, because a lot of things were done wrongly. Then maintenance, of course, because they didn't know how to maintain it. They used materials that are not suitable to earth, such as concrete, such as nowadays these plastic windows and so on. So they created many problems. And the worst one is, I think one of the worst ones, cement plasters and renders, and unfortunately concrete slabs, because they put them in every house, and then the humidity wants to go out, and because there is a concrete slab, it goes into the walls. So we have, like, most of the houses now have this problem of humidity that didn't exist before. And also when I was talking about these mistakes that were happening very often, for example, they didn't do foundation, or if they did it in rammed earth. So it means that it's hard to maintain it and to improve it nowadays. And of course, people are now looking for quick solutions, and with an earthen house, you need some time to repair it, to let it dry, and so on, so it takes time. And of course, in Serbia, they always look for these eternal solutions, and they think if they make a concrete house, it will stay there forever. So, yeah. And as I see it, for possible solutions, but it's just, maybe we can discuss it and maybe you don't agree with me, but for me it's like, see all these successful examples from other countries, raising awareness not only with professionals but also with general public. Continuity and improvements are also very important, because now that we have this, or last couple of years, we had this movement of ethnological houses. So people tend to repeat the same shape and everything of these old houses, but it's not for nowadays use, it's not suitable anymore. So we need to really to think how to improve those houses, to keep the best, and then to see how to change them. And of course, a multidisciplinary approach, I think it's one of the most important things, because we need to work all together to see how to solve those problems. I'm going to show a few examples. This was my first involvement in restoration of one of the oldest houses from the region where I come from. It's from the little hill, so it's not ram dirt, it's a wattle and daub. We had stone foundation, wooden structure, and then wattle and daub, and then it was covered by, with earth. And they invited me, so it was like as soon as I came back from France, and it was very difficult to work with these craftsmen. They were old, and seeing a young person who comes there and do some tests, as we did last year, they thought you're playing. It looks like you're not serious. So for me, in the first years, I was always working double. The men were working because I needed to prove that that I know what I'm doing. So it was like in the beginning, it was quite hard, but now they kind of know, and I got their approval. So what was very nice, we were there for a few weeks, and then the community got involved. They came to see what we were doing, and of course bring some coffee, some pie, and so on. And for me, that's the most valuable thing, to involve community in this, because otherwise it will stay without use, and that's what happened to this place. They wanted to make an open air museum, and they built some houses. They brought some houses from the other places, and it's very nice, but there is no use. So in few years, it will again fall apart, because yeah, that's the biggest problem. Then again, another project with Belgrade Institute for Protection of Monuments. It's a bit different architecture, as you can see. The same technique, but roof is different and so on. It's a bit more southern influence. And they invited me to help with these plasters, but it was November. So I asked all my teachers from Cratero, all my colleagues, what to do, and they said simply, you don't do it, because we don't work in winter. You know, it's from spring, so it can dry until winter. But because it was like 100 years after First World War, and this is a house of a military guy, very famous one, they wanted to finish it for March. And we were lucky, because the winter was very mild, so the house survived, we survived, but yeah, there is a time to work with earthen structures, so no winter time. And then I met some group of architects who were organizing some very nice summer schools that inspire me as well. In Bač, it's also again in northern Serbia and in the part where I live. And I like the way they organized those courses, and we were repairing some of the houses around this area, and they wanted, because it's a very nice, there are some churches and so on, they wanted to try to put it on UNESCO list, but it's still not there, but still this area is quite nice, so we were repairing some of these houses. And then I got to know CHVB Albania, Cultural Heritage Without Borders, and the best regional restoration camps, or the best thing that existed in Balkans, were their camps. I think the main office is in Sweden, and what they do actually, if there is some heritage in danger, they would organize one of these offices, so they could try to keep and to preserve the heritage that was in danger. So at that time, so it was, I worked with them from 2013 to 2017. There were a few places in Albania, in Bosnia, in Serbia, Kosovo, and they were all under protection of the state, but they would involve 20 young people from the region. It was always free of charge for them. to work together with craftsmen, the traditional one for wood, for all the materials, and they would brought specialists from Europe to teach them how to do it. So it was really, really nicely organized, and unfortunately, they are not there anymore. They work in Albania and Montenegro, but not in this place. And this place is in eastern Serbia, and it's very interesting because it was at the time when France got this pest phylloxera, when the vine was destroyed, and that was the only place in Europe where that was not affected. So they exported all their vine and got very rich. So they built all these beautiful vine cellars. They are outside of the village. They have a lot of them, like in stone, in wood, basically. And then some of them were covered with plaster. So we worked on the reparation of some of them. Now they are using them again to have these wine cellars and to have small workshops and works there to get them alive again. And then my biggest dream when I came back to Serbia was to have my own place, to make all the experiments and to do all the mistakes I'm going to show you now. And I was lucky, so that year I came back from France, I didn't have a job, I tried to apply for 2 different funding, but I didn't get any of them. And the 7th one was from Cosmopolitan magazine. And I said if they give me this 5,000 euro, I would buy a house, an old house, and I would make a center for earthen architecture. And I got this money. So, and it was at the time, and I think maybe in some remote areas, even nowadays, you could buy a house for 5,000 euro. So never underestimate where the help can come. So yes, I got that money and I bought a house. But they gave me only 2 days to find it. So it was quite hard because I didn't know the region very well. So I just came back and I remembered one village from the past. So I decided to go there and I found this house. And for me, the only important thing was that it was not destroyed by using concrete and so on. So it was in its original state from 1912. And I bought it. So, but it was not in the best condition. So my colleagues from France and one from Brazil, you can see them down, they came to help me do the diagnostics. But the problem was, so we took everything out, all the things. Yeah, you see there is a gable wall that is missing and so on. And after 10 days, they left. And I was completely scared. I didn't know what to do now. But then my family came. Some friends came, then some colleagues, and then the media. I was against it in the beginning because I thought, what can I do with them? But then it was very, very useful because they kind of promoted it. And after so many years, people got used to us, and somehow we got some respect from them. And if you have some problems nowadays, I was doing a workshop, an open workshop in an open space, and they told me I cannot go there, but when he told me, I know you from the TV, so you can do it. So that's, I mean, sometimes you think it's not good, but actually it helps a lot, and it helps people get to understand that it's important to keep these houses. And then some volunteers came, and then we started organizing these workshops with different topics, and we were making mistakes on our house. But first, we supposed, because there was no toilet in this old house, we supposed to make a compost toilet. And it's very good to, if you want to start making mistakes, make it on a small structure, and then once you work on your house, then you'll make less mistakes. Then we, because there were tiles on the top, but we wanted to use the attic because it's a huge space, and usually it's not used, so we decided why not use it, and let's, because there are still some masters who know how to do these roofs. We wanted to work with them, and that was a chance. So through some funding, I found some money, and then we got our thatched roof. And then this northern elevation of the house was in a very bad condition, so we tried with some straw bales, and then in this gable we did this light clay technique that we tried yesterday with a lot of fiber and some clay, and it was quite good. And then, because my husband also, he works in Heritage Protection Institute, we decided to keep everything that has value, so all the doors and windows, and it was again hard to find people who know how to restore them. And then also because these porches are very typical for our houses, traditional houses, but these ones were at some point removed. They were wooden, then they put them in bricks, fired bricks, and then we put them back again in their traditional state. And then also all our houses, you never see earth. So they're always painted with lime, and you have these nice patterns done by women and by rollers. That was something like a fashion like 50 or 70 years ago. And because I needed to repair all the walls, but I loved the idea of keeping some of them, then we kept the pattern only around the windows in sgraffito, just to not to lose it completely. Then, because the earth we use for ramming is so fine that Alba from Crater, she said, how can you make rammed earth with this? It's just for plasters. We make it, but that's why we say you cannot, because when you talk to people in Serbia, they say you can make rammed earth walls, but only one floor. And that's why, because our earth is not appropriate for doing it. But then we try to do some improvements, to add some gravels, and to show that it's possible to improve it and to still use it. And then, of course, for all these workshops, you need to have some open kitchen to prepare some food. So we had a master from Hungary who helped us build these stoves. They're, again, traditional, and this guy worked with, we had 5 girls in the workshop, and they built these very nice things. Then some workshop place. We decided to use only recycled materials to try all the techniques we have in the region. And of course, I got son meanwhile, and we decided, okay, we need to make him space to play, so why not? And traditionally, we have these chicken houses, but a bit more narrow. But my husband, he was afraid at that time that I won't be able to make it, so we made a safe dome for it, but it was also good to try it. And then the hardest part was to take out all the earth from the floors, like 40 centimeters, and to put gravel inside, so to have, because we don't have a foundation, we have rammed earth foundation, which means that there is humidity going on, going up, that this is the way that you kind of make it as less as possible. And then I made my first rammed earth floor. But in the books, you don't find that it can crack. It's possible, and it's fine. So when it cracked, I said, okay, no, take it off. It took some time, some weeks. And then I decided, let's do the cob one. Cob is a mixture of earth and straw. So again, some months, I did the cob floor. But then because of this, when the wall meets the floor, there is humidity. So after some time, I noticed, okay, it was not the best decision. And then in 2024, we had some specialists for rammed earth floors coming for our festival. They didn't have where to do the floor. I said, okay, let's destroy ours and we do another one, this time properly. They did it, and it cracked so much that now I need to repair it. So it's our 3rd floor, and I think it's a never-ending story, but also it's very good to make mistakes on your own house and then to know how to help people not to make them. Then we make one of these traditional stoves. As I said, it's this cob technique that we don't use for walls, but we were very lucky. This guy was 75 years old, and he died some time after, but to learn how to make it, and it was very funny because he spoke Hungarian, and I brought him some sketch, and I wanted some modern stove, and he just looked at it, and he said, do you want a round one or the square one? I was like, okay, whatever, just do it. So we had, it's not a perfect one, but we like it because it's really, and I mean, it's very nice to understand all the process and to know how to make it yourself. Then, because all these rooms, for example, you build, traditionally they would make a house, and if they would have more children and so on, they would just make another rooms. So this house could go very long. And then this 4th room, there was no access to other rooms, only from the porch. So we decided, let's make some openings, but We just went to Morocco. Why not make some Moroccan style? Who cares? It's our house, so we can do whatever. So we did this. And also I made this, my version of Tadelakt. It was not the best, but now I have experience. And of course with our son, to make some magic beans, to make it more pleasant to stay in. Some shelves for the books, Tadelakt in the toilet. There I got pretty much good. And then we had these huge attic that we didn't know what to do. So we decided let's make sleeping there, because we always have people who come, so why not? It took us maybe 2 summers to cover it all. And then my son decided I want it blue. So blue clay plasters. We did them, and they're quite nicer. This was a test for me because I didn't have those good oxide plasters, oxide pigments at the time. And then Alina from Romania and Adam from Hungary, they decided to make a Regio Earth Festival, so to move it every year. And then I was there in 2018 in Romania, and they proposed me to do next edition in Serbia in 2019. But I thought we never did something like that, but maybe it's good to have a conference before that. So we made the first Balkan conference, and we had like 11 countries for the first time together talking about this topic. And the Regio Earth Festival, and we expected to have people from the region, but in the end, we had like 50 teachers at the conference and the festival, and around 80 participants from 32 countries. It was completely crazy, and I think we will never do it again, but it was a good experience. So there we did quite a new building, and we tried some new techniques. And then because kids of the village liked it very much, we decided why not make a local festival every year, so we can practice with them because they liked it. So we started this little festival, and then with some other artists who work with light and so on, we tried different things. And then we also got involved in this ECVET certification. ECVET is are the certificates that are not related to, it's like for the faculty, but for the masons, let's say. So there are different levels, and you can go in different places, get some knowledge, and then get certified for this knowledge. So now we are in this group, we are representing Serbia, and we do these things. And then at some point, I didn't know what to do next, so I got a bit fed up of all these hundreds of people passing by the house all the time. And also, all the problems were the same. Each house had the same problems and so on. So for me, it was kind of repetitive. And I was like, I don't know, I don't see myself doing this, repeating it all the time. So what I did, I started a PhD in scene architecture, with the idea to see how art can be used outside of architecture. Because for me, then I realized that I love art, but it's just a tool to work with people. So how can I do it? And sometimes it's hard to prepare like this for Ramdaret coffrage, formwork, thank you, for the Ramdaret and so on. So let's find the ways, and let's see what people are doing around the world. And it's very, I mean, there are so many artists, so many architects, so many theater plays and so on, doing different things with art, and I loved it so much. And it gave me a bit of this artistic approach that I missed from my childhood. So I got some chances to go abroad. So in Austria, I did an interesting residency where we were thinking about what is the worth of the earth in all the, I mean, what is the value of the earth, all senses, from the planet to the earth and so on. So that was very nice. And then I went to a small, tiny island in Ireland with 200 people, and there kids never touch earth. They live on the stone island, and they use earth only to grow potatoes. And for them, it was like magic. It was something they never touched before. And for me also, it brought me, and we always teach like earth comes from the stones process and so on, and then you see earth comes from a mixture of sand and seaweed. They made their earth, so and so on. So it changed your perspective, and that's why I love coming to different places, learning from different people, and then some also exchanges in Denmark with some interesting people and some artists, and also 2 years ago in Manises, close by here, I did a small workshop. I learned about ceramics, and then I love their tiles around the doors. And in Serbia, we have this quarter where we also have these doors, but no tiles. And so I try to introduce something to connect two of them. And then they invited me to my hometown, to Novi Sad, because there is a quarter that is now under repair. It's called Almaški quarter, and it's mostly made out of earth, and there's quite some houses that are still there. So we did a lot of workshops in several years, some expositions, and then we did some walks through heritage with them, and that was quite beautiful because people from there could understand where they live and why that is important. And also this year, it's not so related to Earth, but in the town where we live, in Zrenjanin, it's a national capital of culture this year. So we did some walks through heritage, different heritage, like sacral, like taverna, theater, and so on. And we made some maps for people to do it on their own. And also it's like in 25, I was invited to help restore this house, 200 years old, in a village. And there was a small association just starting. They bought it, and it was a parish house from Catholic Church, but there were no Catholics anymore, so it was just there, very beautiful, quite big house. And they wanted me to train their masons. But I saw the potential, not only in this house, but with this association, and also my grandparents. They came from Bosnia after Second World War, and they came to this village. So I was also personally attached, and I wanted to do something. And then we started a small research, and it appeared that after the Second World War, because they had it was a very industrial little village, from Germans to these Bosnians and so on, and that after the Second World War, there was a movement called Synthesis that combined urbanism, architecture, and fine arts. And they have some beautiful pieces in the village that some part have a fantastic urbanism from 50 years ago and so on. So it's not only about one house, and for me it was, let's create a story and let's involve the community and let's do things about it. And it was really nice, and I got inspired, and I think that's something I really like to do, not to only preserve a house, but to think how to include people and what we can do to help this association go on after we leave. And now I mentioned Mihailo Pupin. He was one of our famous scientists. They invited me this year to try to repair his house, because it's again in earth, but there is again a beautiful complex around it. And the idea is to try to think of a school on wheels, and to try to help all these rural villages think of what they have and how they can use and how can they involve the community in it. And thank you for your attention, that's all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think your lecture was full of good sensations. You are a very positive person and always positively working. So it's a lesson for all of us. Thank you very much. Any questions here?
I can, in Spanish.
Even in Spanish. En español, ¿puedo traducir?
Hola Dragana, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien.
Bueno, primero, pues felicitaciones por Yo creo que es necesario todos esos ejercicios de intentar no solamente conservar una técnica que es pues, patrimonial, sino también intentar recomponer el tejido social, eh, eh, transmitiendo la técnica a otras personas para que puedan seguir elaborándola y aplicándola en su día a día es importante. Y como personas que conocen las técnicas tradicionales, creo que es necesario que esta pueda ser transmitida a otros y de una manera que sea asequible, que también la aprendan a usar, que creo que es algo que tú haces. Hoy tuvimos la oportunidad de conocer un edificio que intentaba tomar una técnica de construcción en madera y traducirla a las demandas actuales de vivienda, pero creemos que tiene el problema que esta traducción termina cambiando la técnica y volviéndola industrial y más se vuelve más una cosa como, bueno, hay que responder a las demandas del momento y la técnica que es madera, que es ecológica, termina volviéndose un proceso industrial que tiene que ser replicado y el concepto cambia completamente. ¿Tú crees que en el caso de la arquitectura de tierra, bajo estas nuevas circunstancias, estas demandas de retomar un poco las preocupaciones por la ecología y por el medio ambiente, crees que estos cambios puedan afectar los conocimientos, por ejemplo, de la cultura constructiva que nos has comentado, puedan ser alterados a raíz de estas demandas actuales de construcción en masa y de responderlo empleando pues técnicas de tierra, por ejemplo?
I can try to answer, but maybe you can also give your opinion on that. So I think, there is. It's a complicated question, and I think that there is no one answer to it. So we have this movement in Europe that is now reviving earthen architecture. They're doing. They are industrializing it, so they make a lot of prefabrication and so on. It's beautiful. It's bringing back the confidence, the architecture, and so on. But on the other hand, it's becoming very expensive, so an ordinary person cannot afford it. So it's hard. I don't know. And I also personally, I'm 3D printing and so on. Like for me, working without hands, or like it's something that I don't feel personally, but there are people who do it or who wants it to be fast or who wants it. So I don't know, I don't have one single answer, but I think it's good maybe to have different approaches. And in these countries like ours, I think we still have chance to kind of find a way that is not wholly industrialized, but that still keeps this knowledge and so on. So it's hard. I mean, there is still quite a lot of heritage that can be kept, and they cannot change that. But yeah, techniques are changing. Some of them are improving, and for some, I'm not sure if it's an improvement or not. So yeah, I don't know. Yes, it's difficult. But maybe.
Bueno, en castellano también te lo digo. A ver, yo creo que lo ha explicado muy bien y creo que comparto mucho de lo que acaba de decir. Creo que son cosas diferentes y quizá yo creo que un poco la aproximación que tiene Dragana o la que podemos tener nosotros viene muy relacionada con la parte de patrimonio y como bien sabéis el patrimonio no es solo materia o material, sino que tiene muchas más cosas detrás, ¿no? La cultura, la relación social, o sea, son muchas más cosas. Yo creo que esos procesos de industrialización tienen su valor porque puede permitir un uso en otros contextos, en las ciudades, por ejemplo, que siempre es más complicado, a grande escala, pero reduce un poco solo a la parte de materia material y elimina todo el resto de elementos que sí que es, yo creo que sí que es valioso, sobre todo en un momento que estamos buscando todo esto, estos temas de ecológico y de reducir la huella y todas esas cosas, me parece muy valioso, pero pierde otro tipo de cosas. Entonces, bueno, ganamos unas y perdemos otras. Yo creo que un poco, como ha dicho Dragana, efectivamente todo tiene su valor y todo tiene su papel. creo que no podemos perder ni uno ni otro, ¿no? Y bueno, lo de industrializarlo creo que también es una oportunidad para utilizar un material de baja huella de carbono y todo eso, o sea, que tiene su valor. Pero claro, quizá perder lo otro a mí también me da mucha lástima, ¿no? Y me resulta como muy complicado también perder toda esa parte muy humana cuando la industrialización deshumaniza, y eso no es una novedad mía ni mucho menos, ¿no? Se llevan muchos años diciendo, deshumaniza un poco. Entonces, bueno, pues yo creo que el mantener lo que es el uso de la tierra ligado a las personas, a las comunidades, al conocimiento tradicional y todo eso tiene esa parte humana que está más ligada quizá a la parte de patrimonio, y lo otro es algo que se puede utilizar en paralelo y creo que también es valioso. Pero bueno, eso es mi opinión, quizá Fernando también.
Comparto. I share the thoughts. Any other question? ¿Otras preguntas? The conservation works you show on this house is your office, or it's also your house? Your
No, previous works.
Yes.
No, it's just work. It's like a heritage preservation offices that do it, and I was just invited as an expert to help them. So it's not.
Okay.
Has nothing to do.
Because I think you.
The one. The last. Yes.
Is also your house, or
Yes.
or is just your office for the association?
It was both, and now if we with the school on wheels, I think we try kind of to have maybe a bit more it as a house and less as a but it's an association, it's there. Yes.
Okay. So if you are not so much fed up of visitors, we will come and visit you there.
You can come anytime.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.